first exposed to mining when I was practicing law as a junior lawyer in one of the firms in Toronto. As one of the few Spanish-speaking lawyers, I was naturally pulled into mining M&A deals, and I was really attracted by its geographical reach and cultural diversity, and the fact that you could really work with different regions such as South America and Africa and Australia. So I really like that. Then it's the complexity of the business and so many pieces that had to be in place for any action to take place. The people side of it really attracted me in terms of community engagement or negotiation with the governments. And even from diversity and inclusion standpoint of view, I felt like there was a lot that I could be doing and contributing. And finally, I really like mining professionals, and I guess pun intended, I do really find them down to earth, very passionate about what they do, and willing to open their doors and share their experiences. So all those three elements actually inspired me to pivot my career and pursue MBA and managing mining companies at Schulich. And well, here I am today, completely 100% dedicated to mining. For sure, absolutely. And I think it's also with a societal change overall, not even pertaining to mining in general, but just at large. There are more women encouraged to explore STEM disciplines, for example. And as more women exploring that, then mining has an opportunity of attract more of women in technical roles. And hopefully with the technological advancements, these women are going to be able to integrate into the operational side of mining. On more corporate end and also like processes of people end, I find that topics like ESG, for example, taking a kind of a center stage in business of mining, and therefore along with compensation and other benefits that mining can offer, women who enter in this type of disciplines really can make a huge change and move the dial. And I think in today's environment, it's really important for employees to feel that they really contribute to the benefits of the company and also like the industry at large. I always look at mining from two levels. We look at the operational site level and we also look at the corporate level. And I think perhaps one of the disadvantages, or I would probably say a complexity of the mining industry, that you can't really move a mine site to the center of the city. And it's always going to be there. But with technological innovations and the way industry started like rethinking about itself, I find that the sector could attract and also retain more women who want to have both career in mining and also family. I think one of the things that the industry is kind of lagging and could do a better job is to educate the general public about all the career opportunities in mining, but also all the positive footprint that mining been doing in the countries where it operates. For example, we all know that when something bad happens or there is a crisis or disaster related to the mining activities, it ends up on the front pages of any newspaper. However, what about the positive footprint, economic development, environmental reclamation and closures, and also health and safety, especially health and safety? Actually, I've read Meier's recent survey, the fact that the mining industry actually weathered much better than other sectors the pandemic. And the percentage of people that had to be laid off or to work from home is less because of the discipline that mining inherently has in health and safety. And other sectors are actually looking into mining, how to enhance their health and safety policies and measures. So I think obviously the industry has much to learn in terms of how to integrate and attract very diverse workforce. But I also find that, especially today, the lessons that could be learned from mining. And I find those good stories and those positive footprints need to be communicated to general public. Well, I was absolutely influenced by trailblazers. I live in Toronto, and as you know, PDAC is a huge mining conference. And even before I joined the industry and pivoted my career, I sat on a panel where three women who subsequently became my mentors, Maureen Jensen, Anna Tudela of Goldcorp, and Deb McComb, from different backgrounds, were talking in the panel. And I was so amazed by their resilience. And they were pretty much the first women, at least in the Canadian mining scene, who went underground or sat at the corporate level or director level meetings. And they were telling their stories and their resilience and their insights and their ability to really pivot and have success in the career. And I looked at them and I said, oh my god, this women rock. Wait a minute, I rock too. We're women who rock. And that's how the foundation was born. And I'm happy to say that right now we have over 800 members in Canada, and we also consult other countries, helping them setting up their women in mining branches. And what I've realized through the last 7 years of running Women Who Rock, that we as women, we really need a network and a safe environment where we can share our challenges and just talk. And so having our tribe, so to speak, is very important. And foundations like Women Who Rock and other chapters of Women in Mining, connecting women and opening the doors. And I find that it's those trailblazers that open the doors for the next generation of women to not only enter the industry, but stick in the industry, which sometimes could be challenging. I think the mining leaders from the top have to treat the workforce or diversity and inclusion issue as an operational business strategy issue. It's not only HR issue. HR could definitely drive the initiatives, but those topics and issues have to be discussed in the boardroom. They have to be discussed on a senior management level, and it's just as important as technological transformations or ESG or accounting and finance. And so discussing it on a strategic level, I find is vital. Looking at your own organization from systemic level, addressing bottlenecks and biases, conscious and unconscious, is also important, as well as assessing the culture of your organization. And culture could be a term that a lot of times is scary because it's hard to change the culture and you don't know where to start. But I find assessing your company on systemic level in terms of policies and procedures, and on behavioral level in terms of culture, is where sort of the nugget lies, where you can actually start pivoting and implementing change management initiatives and activities to move the dial. And if we move the dial one company at a time, then the industry itself is going to start changing. I think there are three reasons. One being not only for women, but just for talent in the industry. We all know that the industry is a cyclical business, and as soon as the down cycle comes around, it's really hard to retain people, and therefore we lose talent. Women otherwise who go to other industries and stay in other industries. Um, Another challenge I find that a lot of women, once they get to senior positions, they require to really have experience on operational site level, and they might come from different backgrounds in different ways. As myself, for example, legal or accounting and finance, and they might not necessarily have that exposure to the operational side of things. I find that flexibility from the leadership team on identifying exactly what traits they need for that individual to actually get to this high leadership position needs to be identified. So we're not going no longer going to look at the laundry list of what we would want to have in an ideal world, but to create sort of an ecosystem when women from different disciplines can reach those positions is important. And also the matter of sponsorship. And there have been a number of studies done that women are over mentored and under sponsored. And I would say that the responsibility and onus in this aspect is really lying on women to take sort of a hold of their own careers and actively looking for sponsors in their organizations and asking them to put their name in equity to help them to achieve those leadership positions. The fine tuning between the mentorship where you meet your mentor and your mentor gives you a piece of advice how to progress to the next step of your career or pivot or move companies. They give you advice and then it's up to you to do whatever you want with the advice. A sponsor is someone who's going to sit in a board meeting or in leadership meeting room is going to say this individual deserves a promotion, this individual should be given an opportunity. It's somebody who speaks on your behalf when you're not in the room. Addressing the cyclical nature of business, I do find that the government could play a role in creating an ecosystem where the industry perhaps cannot retain the workforce on its own through various NGOs and activities and initiatives to support the industry, so through programs or perhaps subsidies where we can continue attracting and retaining people even though perhaps the business doesn't warrant that. In terms of sponsorship, I really do find that women have to be proactive and raise their hand. I find that overall, the mining industry has a lot of foundations, a lot of groups and women in mining and NGOs like SPDC or CIM or NEAR that creating this ecosystem and infrastructures for women to progress their career, but they also have to take a part of responsibilities on themselves. And I know that could be scary and to reach out to a senior leader that perhaps you don't know, or even your boss, and say, I think I'm ready and I need your help to make it happen. So I think that that's the part of responsibility that we also have to assume ourselves. And I find it's communication, communicating to the general public all the opportunities and career progressions and compensation, which statistically is much higher in mining than in other sectors, is quite important. The more we get this exposure to the general public, the more we're going to be able to attract and retain sort of the bright minds of the future. I would say dig deeper, dig deeper than just career fairs. Perhaps not all the mining opportunities will be there. Don't stop looking on the surface of what's available. And what I find in mining quite fascinating, it's never too early uh, to share your vision and make a difference in mining. I find it's not as hierarchical as other industries might be. And if you have great ideas and you know how to you think or you know how to improve one aspect of the business, there are always going to be people who are going to be willing to listen to you. I find miners that they're very entrepreneurial and opportunist in their nature. So when they hear about good projects or great ideas, at least they're going to listen to you. And I find that the next generation of professionals, because of the exposures they have geographically into different technologies, and they have a lot to they offer a lot of value, and they don't need to wait 5-10 years to make their mark in the industry. And I've seen a lot of sort of young and upcoming talent, both men and women, who made a significant contribution and changes to the industry already from people, processes, and operations perspective. So I think there are a lot of great opportunities in the industry.